Good afternoon. We are the Reentry Theater of Harlem, and today's play is called Going Along to Get Along. Going along to get along examines the impact of silence and complacency in various social problems impacting our lives, including inequalities in healthcare, public safety, poverty, mental health, and high incarceration rates, particularly in Black and brown areas. This play challenges us to rethink our role in society and inspires us as a call to action for meaningful change. Welcome to Going Along to Get Along.
Hey, how's everything? How's
Man, I've been waiting on this right circle all week, man. All week I've been waiting for this.
Hey, the Roman circle, man. I live for these Roman circles. Go along, get along. Go along to 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 get along. They serve us dreams to lead us on. They serve us dreams to lead us on. Go along to get along. Go along to get along. They serve us dreams to lead us on. They serve us dreams to lead us on.
Hold up. I'm uncomfortable wearing this mask to disguise myself.
You're messing up the
To
flow.
go along, to get along.
You're messing up the flow again,
I'm
man.
not doing it anymore.
Oh man, listen, man. I wear this mask to blend within. Status quo, sustain. I go along to get along, because that's the name of this game I'm playing.
Well, for me, man, you see, I was born black in America with a target on my back. In this land that they call America the Free, it's about hypocrisy and democracy. That's what this mask means to me. And I'm gonna wear it. But the truth is,
What's the truth?
the reason why I wear this mask is because I'm afraid. I'm afraid of them. I'm afraid of you. I'm afraid that hurt people hurt people. So,
Let's go.
let's go.
What will we gain by going along to get along? What shall we profit if we gain all the recognition in the world and lose our souls in the process? Merely going along to get along only perpetuates systemic inequalities, which are most felt by Black and brown marginalized communities. This idea of going along to get along not only hinders progress, but it also sustains the very problems we seek to change. It's high time that we break the cycle of silence and complacency and champion authentic dialogue and a relentless pursuit of justice, equity, taking off this mask. It's not me. Join me, brothers. Take off your mask. Take off your mask.
I'm gonna take this mask off, and I'm gonna claim my self-determination. I wanna ask y'all to join me. Come on, bro. Can't leave my here.
All right. Yeah, you're right. I'm gonna take off my mask too and reclaim my creativity.
I've been wearing this mask a long time, man. I hear you. So I'm gonna take off my mask and reclaim my identity.
Now you take off your mask and claim your humanity.
Thank you.
My musician friend.
I just want to say, first of all, well done.
So this is part of the talk back there.
Yeah. Anyone y'all want to start? Let me introduce myself. My name is Alex Anderson. I'm the director of Reentry Theater of Harlem, and today's performance is called Going Along to Get Along. It's our way of speaking out to the current election year, what's going on, and we all see it, it's all on TV. And we just want to say that going along and get along, sometimes in politics is just not the right thing.
Well, for me, it's my name is Rory Anderson, by the way, and part of the Reentry Theater of Harlem. And it's complacency that stifles creativity. That's part of the process that I always try and fight against. And what happens with that is that we lose that liberative imagination that will transform our world and try to create anew. And that's what I get when we try to get past what we see every day in our society.
My name is Bruce Blake. I'm the co-founder of Reentry Theater of Harlem, so rights passage, cohort, facilitator. This presentation reminds me of what I have been doing all my life, going along to get along. School, elementary, high school, and I say that because I disagreed with a lot of things that were going on in my life. Even down to my family, mother, father, but I had to go along and get along, or there was consequences, even during my time in prison, 8 years incarceration. I didn't agree with what was going on in the prison system, how God treated me, but I had to go along to get along, and this is why we make these service announcements, about having compassion, spread that message, that there needs to be compassion all over the world. So that's what this presentation, was all about for me.
Amen. Praise the Lord. My name is Reverend Khalil James. These brothers, they lead me in the work. I always share with individuals. Sometimes you think you're bringing the gospel to individuals, but they wind up bringing the gospel to you. And pretty much I learned a lot from them. The mask making, for me, is taking off the mask is really about the code switching we have to do as African Americans and Black men. How we have to wear this mask. And we've been wearing it for a long time. And we're taught at a very young age to wear it. And what happens is that you wear it so long that it creates a chasm within you. And when it's time to really find your authentic voice and who you really are, there's so much work you have to do to get back to that place because you've been faking it so long. So, the peace came out of we wear the mask. I don't know the whole poem. You guys can talks about the last event and the things it hides, things it's not seen. So it's a very powerful piece, just especially for individuals coming home. It gives them a chance to go back into their childhood and find out who they are. And this message is not just for men coming home, but it's really for society. And it's really for the young people who made some of the same mistakes we made. And that's why we're here today, because we made some mistakes. We wore some masks, we were given some roles to play, and by some people in our lives, and it was the wrong story. And we wound up in situations because we were told the wrong story. So these presentations are really powerful because they help us to tell the story and claim the narrative, and also give young people another role to play instead of the role that we play.
Look, tell me about the community. What the community is about.
Yeah. So we have these things that we do work at between abolitionist principles and at the intersection of activism. So we do a lot of work in the community with young people. We do a lot of work with people formerly incarcerated. But we believe community versus individualism. So it's not an individual thing, but it's about community. Compassion, the piece on compassion, you'll see it's compassion over judgment, condemnation. We don't condemn poor people for being poor. We don't condemn people for crimes of survival or blame people for their situations. We believe in care over neglect. We understand why we do this work. We work a lot with men who are in shelters, who are struggling, and we have to give them a continuum of care. You just can't release people from jail and push them into shelters, which is just as worse. So they need that support. They need a place to come to during the week and draw support from other brothers who may have, we have 8 years here, 20 years in.
25.
25 years in? And how many years out? And how many years out? 18 years out? How many years in? How many years out?
12 years out.
12 years out. All right, so you do the numbers. So they've been out and they know what it takes. And it takes community. So those are some of the things. Creativity. Creativity.
And it's getting away from that individuality.
Yeah, so
there's no I in team. We've all heard the phrase. And how, there was always the thing of, you can just pull yourself up by your bootstraps. If you don't got no boots, what you doing? You need resources. You need opportunities to make these things happen for someone. So if this is never shared or never given to anyone else, someone just like you that have it, that will have boots to pull on.
Someone's coming home has these resources to these brothers here. It's a wealth of knowledge here, what you need to do, how you need to move, how you need to move when you come home.
And we coordinate with other people and resources that are available, other groups that are like-minded.
One of the words that we use a lot is community, because we believe that we're community led for the solutions that we need. And Khalil brought up individualism. We also find that individualism is one of the detriments of our communities when you think that you can achieve and then move on and leave people behind. It's not what we are saying should be the way as a community we should go. We should stick together, we support each other. You see someone struggling, you see someone laying on the ground, if you don't at least offer them something, and in our faith, we believe if you pray for the person, it's just as good. So we're advocating, from community-led solutions and not from individual solutions. And we think that works. It worked for us. I did, 15 years on the installment plan. And it was only until I started to get involved in the community and looking for some community solutions that I'm able to sustain myself.
I grew up in Harlem, and there was a phrase that went around in the 60s and 70s. It was each one teach one. which means about community and family. And it's not about just as I get, it's enough for me alone. But the process has always been one in our culture initially. And I'm gonna go back a little further. Historically, the richest person in the tribe was the person that had the most to be able to share. That's what the riches was about, those that was able to share. That usually became the chief of the tribe, or the spokesperson, or the griot. So these are the things that we need to do and get back to in order to try and evolve ourselves into more humanistic.
Humanitarian.
Well, yeah, okay. Say humanitarian kind of. That's
A lot of the art that y'all see comes from members of Reentry Theater of Harlem, and this is the expressions that you see in the art is community. The message is community. The poems that you read, the message is community healing, right? That we need. And Bruce has a video that's playing on the monitor over there, and sometimes I watch people's responses when they see that enactment of condemnation versus compassion and the results of that. Joshua has some pictures of his body art that again is saying community over individualism. He talks about say their name, and he has this body art that he says there's pain in relations to the inscriptions on his body. However, he said it doesn't match the pain of the community when an individual is cut down, an innocent individual is cut down by police violence. He talks about the pain that he feels, right, goes away, but the pain that the family members that are all inspired on his body stay. And he does that just to show the individuals that the community supports. Very powerful pieces up here, and as you can see, they're all pieces that involves community.
Forms.
Yes, fearless pieces. So, Reentry Theater of Harlem is a program that is community-based. We try to stay in the community. We try to stay connected to the heartbeats and our roots of the community. And, we operate out of Pastor Khalil's church.
Dominating church.
Because we feel it's a church that is authentically for the community and not just
We open 7 days a week.
right, and not just looking to see what they can get from the community.
Yeah.
A lot of our community churches does that, and our piece, go along, get along, is speaking not just to the establishment, it's not just speaking to the status quo, but we're also speaking to ourselves and our community as well. That we have a voice, we should be exercising our voice more. Because people don't know what we're going through, right? They're going to ignore it, or they're going to create their own narratives about what we're going through. And what we're trying to do is correct that narrative, right? Reclaim our narrative and not blame the poor for what's going on.
for being oppressed.
Right. So I personally, I thank these brothers because they keep me focused and keep me positive, keep me out of prison, because, you can get frustrated sometimes.
I break out. I don't know about anybody else, but I don't even want to break out in panic or calm again. So
I don't either, right?
So said we have Mount Zion. So we're in the process of creating our own theater, Black Box Theater, and gallery.
yeah,
We need help. We've done some work upstairs and again the space that was 2,000 square feet, and then we had a roof. They had a roof issue and some water issue coming in, so we fixed the roof. We blacked out the ceiling. Now we have to do the walls and the staircase so we can get up there and really create. So we thank God for how far we've come. We still need help. So and this space is for formerly incarcerated individuals and young people who find themselves in trouble. It's an alternative kind of thing, program, and we work with the GED program. We have some programs that we work with now, we should fight back. And we work with some kids who are on the margins, and we try to connect the brothers and sisters
So they don't fall through the
formerly
cracks.
incarcerated, who's home, doing well, connect them with young people who may be headed that way. So they can kind of stop them. You don't want to do this. You don't want to play that role. We played that role. We wore that mask. We can tell you where that mask will lead you, but we want to give you a different role to play. And we're committed to that. Ending that vicious cycle. Because in the work in the community, we see it. They'll take some young people down, drug dealers, brothers trying to make some money just to, feed their families or just to have some joys or whatever, just to feel good about themselves. They don't feel too good about themselves. So they'll sell crack or sell some type of drug, and they'll take them down, and then another group will rise back up with kids, right? So we never really get to the source of the problem.
Cycle continues.
So we have to come back and create a champion of authentic dialogue where we can get to the root problems and help these brothers talk to the young people. There are other ways to make money, other ways to do things. So they don't cause harm in the community, like many of us did. So we don't demonize them. We try to educate them.
He mentioned the community center we're trying to build, and the reason why we feel it's necessary to have a community center, arts-based community center in East Harlem, because when we go around the community, we find these spaces are not available. We find that there is no free art space, community space for people to come to and to, engage with one another, put on shows for one another. Those spaces are not in, like a 5-mile radius of Harlem.
A lot of sports programs.
There's a lot of what?
A lot of sports programs.
In the park.
And not for the population that we deal with.
Right. And so we feel it's necessary to have a space, right, for people to come to. I'm not going to just say young people. I'm just going to say people, period, to come to in Harlem. And we're working very hard to get this space open. There are developers who would love to get the space and build some some
Luxury apartments.
luxury apartments that we can't afford, so you know what's going to happen once we allow them to do that. And then our brother Khalil for fighting against that. Most of the churches, as you know, have
Going that way.
going that way with developers, built luxury apartments on top of the church. But Khalil refuses to do that. He was offered opportunities to open a gym. I think Crunch gyms are one of the kind of gyms in that space. He still said his vision is to have a community center for people in the
Black
community.
box theater.
Black box theater, so that
Yeah.
we can do this work and help educate each other, like Lord said, each one teach one.
My musician friends.
I just want to say, first of all, well done. Like, yeah, nice. That was really good. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, and that. So I'm curious how each of you got not roped into this, but you know what I mean? Like, you sitting, I'm sitting here now.
Keep the rope, he's a looser guy.
You know what I mean? I know a couple of y'all know they know it's easy to coordinate schedules and find time to do things and whatnot. So I'm curious to see why this was the thing that you felt like was worth the time you had did to bring it to fruition, as opposed to
Doing stuff.
all the other stuff that y'all doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think and I'm going to introduce our sister Lizette and her husband, Kenyatta Hodges. Thank you all for coming. As a member of the first women's cohort in 2019, 2019, and I don't know if you noticed that y'all were one of the last shows at the Harlem Theater, National Black Theater of Harlem before they closed. Now they rebuilt it. But before they closed, I think we were one of the last cohorts to perform. Thank you all for coming out. I put in a quick request and said, can you please ask Kenyatta to bring his guitar? Yeah, I put in a request. I knew we had some time, and I knew the music is wonderful. But maybe you can do it without a guitar. Well, you have acoustic guitar, right?
No, so this question, making the time, well, it's therapeutic, art is therapeutic. So you make the time, as well as it's a community support group. Formerly incarcerated individuals come together, and we draw strength from each other. So, as we gather, but then we know when we scatter, we go to different places, but we know that we always have strength with us. We always check in on each other, and see how each other's doing. So, it's so we coordinate. Hey, where you gonna be? Do an hour here, do an hour there. So you make time. That's all.
For me, you and I both were alumni of a certain group. RTA. And I've been doing theater for the last 20 years. So I try and find a way to keep my foot in it and to get on the stage as often as I can. So if not here, I'm speaking somewhere, going somewhere. As you said, finding the time is important to me because, as he said, it's a catharsis that happens with me when I'm able to engage in a character other than myself. I write, so it's always a lot of composites of people and things in my head that I want to get out. And this process allows me to do that as well. So I can bring my creativity to the process. And I think it keeps me away from complacency by doing this. I always try to find an outlet for that. I speak to young groups a lot of times in my community, New Settlement community in the Bronx. And it's always helpful for me to help someone else. I can't keep it to myself. Information and things that I've learned over the years, I believe that it's always a process of evolution. So the more that I do this, the more I involve. The more platforms I can find myself on. Those things are important. And it starts with someone saying to me that you can do this. You've written this. You should have that produced. You should have that out there. For the first time that I had anything produced and saw my play on stage, blew me away. These are my thoughts, and all of a sudden people are performing these things. It's like, shit, I didn't know it could happen. So I want that same feeling for others, for them to have the opportunity to tell their stories, whatever they may be. So we do this process, and we go through our cohorts of helping people tell their stories. And storytelling is ancient. It's been with us forever, it will continue to be with us, because that's who we are as people. I think it helps us reenact with our humanity by doing that. And I can give that back to you. You can give it back to me. We can share it with others. We still have allegories and history. They say Jesus walked. I wasn't there. But the stories have been told for years. This is why we have other pieces of process, Greek mythology, Norse mythology, somebody telling the story. The guy had a hammer. He was strong. Over time, he became a god.
One word that we didn't mention is fun. We have fun doing this. That's one of the reasons why we come together, because it's fun to do these plays. Just like when we was a kid and we was in school, it was fun to do these plays. And I stayed involved in this so much because I know that's the spark that we need to bring back to people in our community is to learn to come together and have fun and enjoy each other and tell our truth, you know, and help each other through those stories that we tell each other. Because you can find inspiration in the story. I mean, you know, my story before Reentry Theater of Harlem is suicide. Y'all heard it. I was contemplating suicide because I was figuring out that, look, there's nothing here for me. Everywhere I was turning, I was experiencing social discrimination because of the field I was in. I was experiencing a lot of employment discrimination. And so, you know, depression set in and I'm on the case. I told you. And then somebody asked me to get involved in theater and to tell my story. And I needed to tell that story. You know, so it saved my life. And then now I just find it's so much fun. They laugh at me because oftentimes I say this is my last rodeo. I ain't doing this no more. Because it gets, like you said, it gets kind of complicated when you're messing around with young men and young women who, you know, who
Are just committed
who've been,
You know, fresh home.
and impacted, and you know, and don't want to hear it, got their truth, and listen, I don't want to hear that. How can you help me? And you know, it gets hard sometimes. But I have a lot of fun doing it. It gives me a lot of life. It leads me to helping, you know, someone other than myself. And I just want to move from there to what we talked about earlier in terms of individualism. It gives me a chance to step out of myself and see myself as a part of the community and helping the community. So if I can help, you know, individual, yeah, that makes my question.
Like the last line you said, take out your mask and human something. How important is it for you? Is it to be artist or is it human? And like, were you always like human first, or after you become artist, you really take seriously?
Mm-hmm.
How?
Well, if I may,
Do you tell the world that like take out your mask as a human, as an artist, or like were you always?
I say it as a human being, not just as an artist, but as a human being. Because at one time I was desensitized. I was in the streets doing what I was doing, and I wasn't about community. It was all about me and mine. So reclaiming that sensitivity was important to me. You know, I can cry at a movie. You know, show another side of myself and don't worry about somebody seeing me as soft. That was important to get that back. Because I didn't grow that way. That wasn't how I was raised. But I lost it in the street. So it was important for me to regain that. And once I did that, I wanted to embrace that and make sure that other people do it as well. So when I say take off your mask and claim your humanity, it's a lot of times we hide behind different things. We build walls. You know, we separate ourselves from these walls and we build up a lot of times. And we can't connect with other people. So, yeah, I ask that you or anyone.
Yes. So we believe that most people wear masks. Most people wear masks. Some form of space. Yes, you know, we all have codes, especially our Americans. You know, constantly reading. So in some we know we have to ask and know that, but be aware, right? Because not going up like this, it creates when it's time, it's very hard. You have so much swimming backwards to do. So we have some of the work we do with Rites to Passage is the river of life. We talk about the river of life, where every individual goes back to the river of life and paint the story. And you find something in there, you know, you find something, some theme in there that connects with you now that you missed. It always happens. And that you missed as a child, you know.
The other side of your question is, we ask the audience to take off their mask as well, because from where we stand, no matter what we could do, but if the community doesn't come out as well, right, it doesn't do anything to the stigma and to the trauma. If the community is not coming out and giving the individual help and support. Like, we can do all we can. I did time in prison and got out, but you still had to check the box. You had to check the box, and you still had to carry the stigma as a formerly incarcerated individual. And I realized if the community doesn't offer the redemption and offer forgiveness, right, it's hard for us, those who have done time, to actually forgive ourselves. So we need the community to also come out and recognize that transformation and redemption is something that benefits the whole community and not just the individual. That the whole community benefits from supporting, restoration and transformation coming out of prisons and jails. We really need that support. So we ask the community to take off their masks too. And that's the prejudices and the biases
And more compassion.
that we sometimes take on against certain people, certain communities, where people come from. We worked on this play.
Mm-hmm.
This is new for us. This is a new.
So we got to do it.
Sorry.
Going to your last line is very important where you said, I've worn this mask for a long time, right? And so how do we help people who have worn their masks for a long time? Sometimes for survival, right? And sometimes because the communities that they're in, it requires them to have a mask. So how do we help them get to their humanity, get to their creativity, and then have them realize you don't need this mask to be human. Like especially in dealing with young people, this is what you have to do.
Listen, I would say the first part is like always, recognizing that you have a mask, that you are going through this process of shielding yourself from the world to protect yourself. Once you can realize that, I think you now can move forward to seeing out how I can find a way of getting around that process. But if you never see it or acknowledge it, then it never happens. What we have to do, like all things, and 12 steps, everything, acknowledge first. We have to acknowledge that this thing exists in us. This thing exists amongst us. So we then can face it and start to find ways of dealing with it. I don't think there's one answer for all of us. There's no one size fits all, but it's a process that we can do once we understand and recognize it.
I think one of the things is embracing it, acknowledging it, and embracing it, the vulnerability. That's one of the things we struggle with a lot of, and you don't want to embrace that, but embrace it, and you reclaim your narrative, and you own it. You be courageous, and you talk about building shame resilience. Understanding what that looks like. Being wholehearted. Into whatever your passion is. So we talk about what a person's passion as an artist is. That's where you are. That's where you focus at. You don't focus on the other stuff.
One of the other things is that Bruce, in his piece, talked about fear. And James Baldwin also said that fear keeps us in the mask that we know we can't live without and know that we can't live within. And he said fear keeps us in that space. But love, he said, brings us out of it. Love allows us to take off the mask, right? And be our authentic self. And I know when he's writing, when James Baldwin was writing this, I know he was talking about vulnerability. He was talking about we have to learn how to step into vulnerability to get the courage that we need to take off and to walk through life without a mask, is what he was referring to. So we mentioned Paul Laurence Dunbar, and he wrote the play We Wear the Mask in 1896. He said, we wear the mask that grins and lies, that hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. This debt we pay to human guile with torn and bleeding hearts we smile, and mouths with myriad subtlety. Why should the world be overwise and counting all our tears aside? Nay, let them only see us while we wear the mask. We sing, but oh, the great Christ, how Christ to these from tortured souls arise. We smile, but oh, the ground is vile beneath our feet and long. We wear the mask. He wrote that in 1896, right? Coming out of slavery. People could not figure out how did he learn how to read and write poetic in the way he wrote that piece and some other pieces he wrote. They couldn't figure that out. But to me, that's the power of our humanity. When people tell me they come into the space and say they can't read, Bruce is a good example. He came into the space and said that he was told in elementary school he had a learning disability. And he walked through life, right? Believing that. And he walked through life believing that. We have another gentleman that joined our cohort recently, and Rory worked through it, and he told us that he can't read at all, right?
He got to read his poem.
But watching, he told me that. He said, I come every week. He said, and he just was sitting in the back. And he said, I come every week because I feel safe in this space. I can't read though, and we gave him a drum. Here, this is you. You do that. But in our last play, we involved and he did read his lines, and he felt so powerful in reading his lines in that performance. He read his lines. I forgot my lines, but he read his lines. Right? Then I forgot. I was like, oh, wow. But people didn't notice though that when he was reading his lines, I was behind him, and I was just so moved to be involved in that. Like somebody told him he can't read. Somebody ridiculed him when he stood up for something, and he closed up for all those years. And
drug addiction, alcoholism,
all those things,
mental health.
as a result of that, as a result of somebody criticizing him and dehumanizing, degrading him. And Bruce was the same way when Bruce came. Actually, I want to say this briefly, Bruce, if you don't mind. Bruce called me after he was denied a position as a peer counselor. He went and applied to be trained to be a peer counselor, and they told him, write an essay. They told you, write an essay, get this, get that, and he did everything. He got clean, he used for 90 days, he did everything. And he went, they called him in and he thought he was getting accepted. They told him, what they told you?
They couldn't accept it because they didn't have a GED.
Because he didn't have a GED, so they wasn't going to accept him. But when he called me at the time, I went to the same program, right? I got in, and he was right, they did say that. And I got accepted, but I only lasted like 2 weeks because I said to myself, like, wait a minute, this is not how you train people to be peer counselors to work with people who are formerly incarcerated and who also have mental health problems. And that's what he wanted to do. And so when he called me, I asked him, what's the name of that program? And he told me the name, I ain't gonna shout him. But he told me the name of the program. And I said, man, don't listen to them people, they don't know what they're talking about. And at the time, I was just putting this together, right? And it was during a pandemic. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I needed a guinea pig, right? I had some ideas, because I'm a social worker. I had some ideas on how to make this work. And it was during a pandemic. And I said to Bruce, like, listen, you could be a peer counselor in my program. And it was only me, but I said, you could be a peer counselor in my program if you go through this rite of passage. And that's when he told me I can't read. Because I gave him some lines to read. And that's when he told me, he said, he had
remember.
Yeah, he couldn't remember it because he had learned this. And just to show you how powerful what you say to people. His girlfriend came with him for the first rehearsal, right? And I had to forgive him. And his girlfriend said, I wish you stopped saying that. You don't have no learning disability. And Bruce went home that night and came back the next week and memorized all his lines. Right? That video over there you see him in is one of the videos that was made. And Lizette, he was a part of his rite of passage.
Yeah, that was there.
Lizette was a part of his rite of passage. And you could not tell that he had some kind of learning disability when he went through that whole process. Actually, it was probably one of the most successful rite of passages I've ever had.
Not with that
He
dynamic
said
personality.
I thought I was reading.
Yeah. But he did, you know, that's the healing space, that's the power of and I knew that's the power of theater. I knew that. And theater is so powerful that it can change anybody's perception. Doesn't matter who you are. It can change anybody's perception. Jerome comes from Belgium and was following us around. Jerome, this is Jerome Stevens from Belgium. Curator of this got us into this space. But we met, what was that, 2021. We met. And Jerome said, can I follow y'all around? You know, y'all seem to be very interesting. He followed us around. Took some of these pictures and stuff like that. But then when he gave us back the pictures, it was just so powerful.
Yeah.
Just the photos himself that he took. It was just so powerful and moved all of us. And he put it into this open ball. And here we are. And so that's how powerful this, the theater space can be and transform. And I know Lizette and I know Kenyatta, y'all at Columbia, and y'all working on these very progressive curriculums to push education forward into the future with some really advanced kinds of education programs. And and Zed has invited me to work with some of the what is it called? With interns, to work with some of the interns. And it's a very powerful experience to hear. She texted me and said what? He said they were moved by what they saw. And it was just a presentation about these bags that were there.
So come down to the exhibit,
Come down.
look around, see what you might like and enjoy.
I got a quick question. You used the term earlier. You said shame, resilience. And could you tell me what that means?
Well, a lot of times, formerly incarcerated individuals, people have the shame about people in incarceration. So we try to help them understand that it's not the end, man. You got to embrace that. And yes, everybody's not going to be, for you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You have to resolve that, right? But you have to be so passionate about, reimagining yourself that you don't listen to the noise. Because you got a community here. You know what I'm saying? You don't need no validation from anybody. You walk in your freedom. You did your time. You walk in your freedom. You embrace it.
Thank you for that.
You don't have to be ashamed of it.
That's Grace. Oh, we just met Grace.
Yes.
So I gotta say, I didn't know what to expect today, but I'm so glad I came. It was wonderful. And then it also sounds like I go to performances, I see theater, I leave. The people in the theater, they leave. The actors leave. But it sounds like you guys don't leave, which is so great. You don't leave people, which.
Yeah.
No, these cohorts go on and on, and people are always, and it's a connection. Once the connection starts, it's like, you'll always have it. He's an alumni of another program that we both belong to. She's another, it's just connected, it's interlocking after all, and through that, we start to break down barriers. Social barriers and other things, because it's not like, someone that's formerly incarcerated wears that on their sleeve. To see me outside of this room, you wouldn't know that.
Yeah, right.
So it's important that we understand that the stigmas that are associated are just that. Someone else is putting that value on you. You shouldn't put that on yourself. You have to move past that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Have a lot of other programs. It's up to
Yes.
July.